Hello, gorgeous entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 314, which means you can find the show notes and any links for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/314. Today, we're talking about that frustrating learning curve when you first start a business and how to get through that learning curve in a safe and easy and much faster way. So if you're in the messy middle of starting a business, this is going to be a really helpful episode for you. Let's dive in. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. So we know that starting a business is one of the biggest growth periods for us, both personally and professionally. Now, when it comes to starting a business, there's so much that we need to learn. There's so much that we have to uncover about ourselves. It brings up a bunch of money blocks, that imposter syndrome, we procrastinate. There's so many things that can come up when we first start a business. And normally when I talk about starting a business being a big growth period, I focus on like the personal growth and the mindset growth that needs to come with it. When you first start a business, you need to be confident asking people for money. You have to stand up for the value of working with you. You're not just selling your services, you're selling yourself. And so that can bring up a lot of mindset stuff, and there's a lot of personal development involved in that. But also in this podcast episode, I want to focus on the fact that there's also a lot to learn practically. You need to learn about tech, marketing, sales, having a business management, admin, finances, copywriting. There are so many things that we need to learn as business owners. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, before I started a business, I described myself as a very tech savvy person. I was always saying, I'm so good with tech. I was the go-to person to fix a macro in Microsoft Excel. I was the go-to person for how to work out why something was getting glitchy or something wasn't working from a technology perspective. But when I started my business, I became a tech newbie instantly. I felt so out of my depth. I didn't understand websites. I didn't understand user experience mapping. I didn't understand a lot about social media. My form of tech was very corporate focused. So even the thing that I was well known for being really good at, tech, became something where I was a complete starter. And so that can create a lot of frustrations, and we can get really hard on ourselves about why is this so hard for me? It looks like it's easier for other people. You start to label yourself. You maybe bring up some of those feelings and experiences that you had when you were back at school, and school wasn't a great place for most people. And so I totally understand that it results in this sense of frustration. So I want to give you 3 big tips on how to just navigate that learning curve with a little less frustration and get there a little faster. Let's make it easier. Let's make it feel a little safer, because the learning curve actually never stops. It just stabilizes. So our goal is not to stop learning or stop need to learning. There's no day in my business where I've gone, right, there's nothing left to learn. I'm totally done, which suits me because I describe myself as a lifelong learner. I actually love learning, but I don't love being in a frustrating, I'm not going anywhere learning curve that feels like there's 11 billion things for me to do and I don't know where to get started. So for me, I actually do love learning, and my goal is never to stop learning, right? And as a business owner, if your goal is to get to a point where you never need to learn anything again, you're probably in the wrong industry. You're in the wrong field, because there isn't a time where you stop learning. You're consistently learning, and the industry is consistently changing. So here are my 3 tips to reduce the frustration and make that learning curve easier. Number 1, and it's very easy to say and hard to do, I understand that, but it is to be patient and kind to yourself. So one of the things when I first started my business that I did consistently was I journaled to pump myself up. So I would write outlines like a school kid. I am so good with technology. Business comes so easily to me. And I would be like, I've got this. I'm capable. I can do this. And I had to keep reminding myself, because my inner critic was vocal AF. right? She was telling me, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. You don't know how to build a website. Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing for you. You don't know how to share a post from in a Facebook group to another Facebook group, right? Or you don't even know how to set up a Facebook page so that you don't get spam, right? So it was all these things that were coming up for me. And the way I was speaking to myself internally was not patient and it was not kind. And so one of the things that I realized very quickly was that if I wanted to get out of this and I wanted to get out of it alive, me and my brain had to be on the same page. And so if my brain was being mean, I would train my brain to be kind. And so I did a lot of journaling. Everything I did, I tried to do it through the lens of kindness and being patient with myself. So if I was finding something hard, oh, this should be so much easier, I would stop and say, hang on a minute. How would I speak to my young niece who was learning this same thing at the same time? I would not be like, oh, I should have this by now. I'd be like, of course this is taking time. This is the first time you've ever done this. Of course, it's going to take a few practices for you to feel like this comes naturally. Why don't we make a little step-by-step checklist and make it easier on yourself so that next time you don't have to remember the steps? Because I used MailChimp for my first newsletters, and I think I sent 6 or 7 newsletters, and every single time I sent a newsletter, I forgot what steps to do, what order to do the steps in. And so I'd get halfway through and I'd be like, oh, I didn't do X. I'll go and do that. And then I'd get angry at myself because I didn't remember this is the order that you have to do it in. And it was about 6 goes before I went, if I was being kind to myself and talking to myself nicely, what would I say to someone who was trying to learn this beside me and was getting frustrated with themselves? I would say, it seems like you assume you're going to remember it next time, but you don't. And then you get frustrated with yourself. Why don't you make yourself a little checklist? And I even went to the trouble of going to Officeworks, stationery store, and getting my sending a newsletter checklist laminated. I laminated it, stationery nerd. I laminated it and I used a little sharp whiteboard marker and ticked off the step every time, and I didn't struggle with it again. So for me, when I'm patient and kind to myself, I'm not just changing the way I think about things and the way I talk about myself. I also make it easier for myself. Yeah, sure. It should be simple to remember those 6 steps. Sure. I should have been able to memorize that by now. But right now, my brain is overloaded with new information, a bunch of mindset stuff. I'm learning new strategies. I've got a lot going on right now. So instead of pressuring myself to magically remember the 6 steps in the right order, I'm just going to make the kind choice and write those steps down and put them in front of me every time I go to do it. I might feel like I'm teaching myself and treating myself like a 12-year-old, but right now, in order to feel confident, I need to treat myself like a 12-year-old. And that is totally cool, right? Whatever you need to do to be kind and patient with yourself, make it happen. Number 2, remember, you do not need to be an expert in all the things. One of the reasons why I got so frustrated with myself was that I bought a course on how to create an website, because I was going to create my website myself. I paid $2,000 for that course, by the way. I could have hired someone and ended up hiring someone for $600 to build the website for me. But no, the smart decision was to buy a course on how to build a website for $2,000 and go and learn code. Now, one of the things that happened was that course, they did a little, are you techie enough to build your own website test? And in that website test, you had to open an email, copy the text, paste the text in a Word document, find this image on the internet, download that image to your computer and put that in the document as well. And there were a couple of change some formatting of things. So I did that. I passed that test with flying colors. The second module into that course, they started to ask me to learn and write code. And I was like, there was nothing about coding on the sales page for this thing. I didn't know I had to learn coding to create a website. This was back in 2013. We didn't have things like Squarespace. We didn't have really sexy, easy ways to build websites the way that we do now. We also didn't have access to people who build websites way cheaper. So I thought that that's what I needed to do. So I thought I had to become an expert in the back end of my website in order to have an online business. And actually, when I just gave up and hired someone to build the website for me, I realized I don't need to know how all of this works. I don't need to know all of those things. I need to know some things. I need to know how to upload a new blog post. I need to know how to change the copy on the main pages. I need to know how to create a new page. So the person who built my website for me, I said to her, I don't need to know all the things, but these 3 things I'm going to need to be able to do quite consistently once you've built the website for me. Can you make me a little video or a little checklist, and we get on a call and you walk me through doing those things, and I'll record it so that I know how to do those things into the future. And she was like, yep, totally. And she recorded 3 little modules for me, and I rewatch those modules every few months because, like, especially the updating my About Me page or whatever, I didn't update that all the time, so I wasn't going to remember it. So I saved the little module that you recorded for me. And then whenever I needed to update a page on my website, I didn't just jump into my website and break things. I watched the video along and I did it at the same time. So you don't need to be an expert in all of the things. So if your natural strengths and skills are not in technology, you do not need to be a technology expert. Also, similarly, you do not need to be an expert in every social media platform. Pick one platform that is going to be your core social media platform and learn and nail that one platform. The rest can wait until you can afford to hire someone to run those other platforms for you. There are enough clients on one platform for you without you having to be on multiples. So you don't need to be an expert in all things, and you don't need to do all the things at once. Take it step by step and remind yourself, I'm going to nail this thing and get it embedded, and then I'll move on to the next. Yeah. So rather than needing to be an expert in all areas, and rather than needing to be on every single platform or use every single tool, just focus on the simple basics that you need to start making sales. And then you can pick a new tool or a new strategy or a new something as you go, one at a time. And then the third piece of advice that I would give you is select your mentors and then tune out the noise of the others. One of the biggest frustrations that came for me about a year into my business was that I ended up on like 95 people's mailing lists, and I was following a bunch of them on YouTube, and I was listening to a bunch of podcasts, and it was like the many cooks spoil the broth analogy. I had far too much advice that wasn't actually complete advice, because it was just little tastes and ideas of things on free channels. And I was getting very distracted by the noise. So what I ended up doing was I chose a mentor that I paid and 3 people that I loved following, who I felt like they were aligned with the direction my business was going. And then I tuned out everything else. I unsubscribed. I physically went and unsubscribed from all the newsletters. I went and unfollowed them on YouTube. I unsubscribed on the podcasts app, and I just kept the number of people giving me advice to a nice solid number. So you select your mentors. Now you might have 2 mentors that you work with paid. You have a strategy mentor and you have a mindset mentor. And then you have a couple of people who you love their podcast. Hello, maybe me. And you stick with those, but you start tuning out all of the other stuff. Yeah. Because these types of podcasts and platforms and free information, in most instances, not in mine, right? I'm very mindful about telling you about shiny new things, but in most instances, they're trying to present you with something that's shiny and new and something, oh, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried? They're sending you off with a bunch of different things to try so that you will need their help to implement, right? That's the point for most people of having a free podcast or a YouTube channel. It's a lead generation strategy. And so it's in their best interest to tell you, oh, there's this option, there's this option, there's this idea, you should do this, you should do that, right? And they're making you feel like you've got a bunch of stuff to do. And then it works if that's the only person that you're following, right? You're getting all this advice, you start getting those things sorted. And then you're like, well, I actually need some more mentoring and support with this. So you go and work with that one person. What they don't take into consideration is that that's one person in an ecosystem of people that you're listening to. So what ends up happening is you've got all of these free ideas and everything, but you're also getting them, all these ones from this person. And this person says webinars are the way to go. And this person says webinars are dead. And this person says 5-day challenges are the highest converting. And this person says webinars are the highest converting. And you just end up with a bunch of different and often conflicting advice. And 11 billion shiny objects to chase around the internet. So rather than chasing a bunch of shiny objects and having a very noisy news feed of what you should be doing and what you should be trying, be clear on who your mentors are and then tune out the noise. So that means when you see an ad for a webinar from a new mentor and they're talking about another shiny object, you can remind yourself, I'm still working on implementing the strategy I've got with this person. I don't need anything else right now. If that is still appealing to me, once I finish this, I'm sure it will come up in my newsfeed again. Yeah, because it will totally come up in your newsfeed again. There is no such thing as a limited time opportunity to work with someone that will never be repeated again. You'll never be able to work with them again. Sure, the price of something might go up. You'll be making more money then, so you'll be able to pay more money, right? Or the spaces might be limited for this year. You've already got something you're doing this year. You can wait for next year, yeah? Nothing is as limited as the marketers would make you feel it is limited to be. Yeah, nothing is as limited as they're trying to make you feel it is. So select your mentors, tune out the noise, and just practice being really focused on implementing and seeing one core strategy through at a time. Hopefully that helps you. I've got those three big tips for you. So be patient and kind to yourself. You don't need to be an expert in all the things or be on all of the platforms, and select your mentors and tune out the noise and the shiny objects. Hopefully that's helped you feel a little calmer and you've got some strategies to make that frustrating learning curve a little less frustrating. If you're looking for more direction on how to fast track your way through the growth of your business, I also want to just let you know about my Fast Track Your Business training. It's available for free. It goes for just over an hour and it helps you with really focusing down on what is income generating and what is important and critical to starting your business and getting sales, and what is not important and critical and can wait until later. So you'll find that with the show notes of today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/314. And until next time, I've been Tash Corbin. You've been a fabulous listener and I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.